Oh, just where to even begin? So the hood's off. He doesn't, you know, drive it around like this or anything. Just full knowledge given, full disclaimer, whatever. I do like the Tinus hydraulic props. That's nice. But just Honda guys, tuners in general, just please stop doing this to Hondas. Please stop. First of all, let me just point out some things about this build. If it was a show car only, I wouldn't be filming this video. But this is a car that gets driven. I mean, this guy, he's driving this car around on the street. This is a street car. Quoth the little bunny foo-foo. Now, I can tell it's a street car because it's got street tires. Okay. And it's got functional headlights, taillights, turn signals, all that good stuff. And what is usually a dead giveaway, confirming whether or not something is a street car: the interior. Full interior. Probably a sound system and shit. I haven't seen that much of the video yet, because I just had to stop it here after he announced his horsepower numbers. But before I mention those, let me also point out this is not a drag racing car. You don't do time attack. You don't do like real racing with a full interior. Okay, you can do some with a like drag racing with normal head. I mean, not drag racing. You'll still have normal headlights and like time attack, I suppose. Usually they do it in the daytime, but like endurance racing, you'd still have headlights like that. But with drag racing, you wouldn't have a splitter. Yeah, that's slowing you down. That's downforce. Now his hood usually has he's got one of them washered up hood deals where it pokes out at the top, or just doesn't line up right there. And that's an interesting thing. I washered my hood up, but I repainted my hood after modifying it, and I had mocked it up with the washers and then hammered the edges down to where this opens up, but you can't tell from the side. And it just kind of gives the whole... my car looks different than any other CB7. This car looks like every modded up Honda. Only like they didn't know which way they were going with it. But that's fine. You can go whichever way you want to go with it. You could do all this shit. I have no problem with this, actually. For a time attack car. Except for that right there. And now I guess I can go into that. His dyno, he says, he stopped it. He had some kind of a leak or something. Sounded like a fish story, but And then he stopped tuning it at 500 torque and 700 horsepower. 700 horsepower. And he says one day he'll go back and tune it for more. Okay. Well, you can always tell when somebody's, responsible with a Honda on the street. When they fail to understand the limits of a Honda B series block altogether. Okay. The most horsepower you can get out of this block without blowing it up after 3 pulls. That is 3 pulls on full power. Alright? Your 4th pull will explode if you have beyond 436 horsepower in this block. The reason why is because it's a piece of physical thing in reality. Okay? And because it is a physical thing, it has to obey the laws of physics. So, what you're telling yourself when you can go twice as much, okay? Understand what horsepower is. Horsepower is the pressurized combustion inside of each one of these cylinders, creating a grand total rotational effect, okay? But essentially the source of the horsepower is these explosions. So to double the horsepower at the crank, you have to double the intensity of each one of these 4 explosion things called pistons and cylinder chambers, combustion chambers, rods, cranks. All of that has to be twice as strong just to get it to do 400 horsepower. Why? Because Honda designed this to make 200 horsepower. Okay? So if you're going to go beyond 400 horsepower, and people go risky and go about 430, 436, and they still don't blow it up, you're still telling yourself that you can make this twice as strong as Honda could. Now, I'm familiar with the boring and sleeving and the girdling and the bracing of the blocks and the pudding pops, and I know all about everything that... I mean, this is actually very nicely done in a lot of ways. He's got the direct ignition right there, coil packs, as the young kids call them, I guess. Say no distributor. I'm sure it's, big kick in the pants sitting there, smacking the rev limiter every time you fucking shift a gear. Take this thing to the drag strip and fight all that downforce and watch it explode if you actually do have 700 horsepower. But, and this is a big but, if you really want to have something like this and show people that you're not a dumbass and that you actually know what you're doing, you'll have a switchable ECU. Now, this is something that I came up with fucking 15 years ago, and I gave up on it when I saw other people doing it. Okay? And it's just a no-brainer. I'm not going to explain it, but it's just a matter of jumpering the little flag guy, I forgot what it is, J12 jumper, to make it into a switch, and that jumper is what tells the OBD1 ECU to look for the stock ROM versus the flashed ROM, like your tune chip. So you just turn that jumper into a switch, You turn the ignition off, you can go stock ROM, and you can even replace the stock ROM with a secondary tune, and you can have a street tune for this and a race tune for this. Do that, or, you know, with an AEM fuel management setup, have a street tune. I mean, there's a lot of different ways of doing this now. I'm talking about, you know, the old school way that I would have done it. But this is not what a Honda is supposed to be. A Honda is supposed to have great power for the amount of money you spend on gas. It's supposed to be fun to drive, but responsible and safe. This is not safe. This could blow up at any time. And there's nothing responsible about A, having a big fucking turbo for no reason to begin with. You've got more power than the tires can even take. And then B, every time you smack the rev limiter and just waste fucking fuel, what is this putting out as far as emissions go? What is this getting as far as miles to the gallon goes? That's not what Honda is supposed to be about. Now, most serious drag racers look at this and they think, oh, another dumbass is going to blow a perfectly good fucking engine up. Okay? These were in plentiful supply 10 years ago. But the good ones are getting hard to come by, man. All of this is great. This is great. Oh, catch can's kind of unnecessary. Like, either find a way to detune that shit, or put a smaller muffler on there, a smaller turbo on there, and try to make this a two-hooded car. Have a normal hood that you can have a normal exhaust with. Or make it a fucking street car that you need to move around with a trailer. Stop driving bullshit like this on the street. What's going to happen? It's either going to wreck, and yes, he was street racing, or it's just going to blow up. Take it to a real drag strip, it'll blow up. Keep racing on the street, he's going to crash it. Either way, another perfectly good Honda chassis and another perfectly good B-Series motor bites the dust. Because somebody just had to overtune a street car.